Hi there, everyone. My name is Anne-Marie Rogers, and I am our Vice President of Sales and Business Development with Quest Trust Company. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. We actually have a brand new class today for you, and it's really focusing in on the wealth transfer that is slated to occur over the next about decade or so. A lot of this is due to the fact that, of course, one of the largest generations, baby boomers, are starting to retire now. And so as they leave the workforce, we're seeing a shift, could be upwards of $30 trillion dollars that's shifting to younger generations. And this is important because it means that there are younger generations that are having more wealth, more income than perhaps they have ever had before. And it's so important to be able to talk about what can be done with those funds, what type of accounts could make sense for them, and what type of strategies would be effective for those accounts and for those funds that they have. I can't tell you how often we hear people say, I wish I'd heard about this sooner. I wish I had learned about this topic when I was in my 20s or in my 30s. And so I think this is a great class truly for anyone. But I also think that this is particularly good content for those of you that may be falling into those categories, maybe opening perhaps your first retirement account. Maybe you've got an old 401k or something like that from a job, wondering what to do with it. This is a great class to talk about some of the things that you have available to you. Now, a little bit about me. As I said, my name is Anne-Marie Rogers. I'm our VP of Sales and Business Development. I've been with Quest for just shy of 10 years now. My background is as a certified IRA services professional, but a couple of years ago, transitioned into a role leading our sales team and some of the BD efforts that we have here with the company. Along with me today, I also have one of our IRA specialists and marketing representatives, Nicole Faniff.
Hi,
Welcome.
hi everyone. Just as Anne Marie said, I'm one of the certified IRA specialists, and I'm also with our marketing department. So if you have any questions at all, regarding anything about the presentation, feel free to put it in the chat. And if I can't answer it, I can definitely stop Anne Marie and have her answer that as well. But if you have any questions, just go ahead and put it in the chat.
Now, Nicole has been nice enough to join today and will be our moderator. So as you guys do have questions, or if perhaps I reference, a class or something of that nature, just send a message in the chat feature and Nicole will get you taken care of and get that answered for you. Now, this class is a little on the shorter side. I know we block off about an hour, but we'll likely go through quicker than that. So if you guys have questions, feel free to type those. We'd love to address those and kind of make this a little bit more of a, personally beneficial class, since we're not too large of a group today. Now, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, background on who we are at Quest. We are the largest self-directed custodian in Texas. I am based in our Houston corporate office, but we also have a Dallas as well as an Austin office and about 20,000 investors who are our clients across the country. We have $2 billion in assets under administration and a bit over 100 employees, who 34 of those are IRA services professionals. Now, our disclaimer is just that Quest does not provide any tax, legal, accounting, or investment advice. It's important to keep in mind that everything we talk about here at Quest is really designed to be for educational purposes only. We always encourage our clients to consult with attorneys or to consult with their CPA or other advisors prior to doing any type of investment within these accounts. Keep in mind that Quest, our role is as a self-directed IRA custodian, meaning that we provide the vehicle, we provide the account, and you guys choose the investments. This really empowers you to be able to invest in the things that you know and the things that you understand outside of the stock market, right? Real estate deals, note investing, private companies, and things of that nature. But because of the nature of those types of investments, and because sometimes this is a newer strategy to deploy for a lot of investors, rather than leaving it in the hands of a financial advisor, or perhaps choosing something that may be more familiar to them, like the stock market, right? We really do encourage all of our clients to do a lot of due diligence before engaging in any of their deals. Now, for some of the newer folks, what exactly is a self-directed IRA? We like to start all of our classes and talk about what exactly is a self-directed IRA, because there's such a misconception around these accounts. We've even heard people that will say, well, I already have a self-directed IRA over at, Fidelity or Edward Jones. And what's interesting is, self-directed is really just a marketing term. There is no legal distinction necessarily between a self-directed IRA versus any other IRA. Now, there's different types of IRAs. There's traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs or SEP IRAs. But self-directed is really just a marketing term that has been coined to say that you as the client are choosing your own investments. Now, what is different about the accounts that we offer at Quest versus an account with a Fidelity, with an Edward Jones, with one of the major name financial companies where you may already hold a retirement account, the big difference is, number one, you're going to choose all of your own investments, right? It's in the name, self-directed. But the second big difference is that all of the investments that you're going to be choosing are all considered alternative, or they're considered private assets. So what most people are used to are going to be the publicly traded investments, stocks, mutual funds, investing in CDs or bonds. These are kind of the typical things that most of us are doing with our brokerage accounts, right? With our work 401k, with these sorts of investment vehicles. But here at Quest, with really, for the most part, all of the same structures of accounts, traditional IRAs, rollover IRAs, Roth IRAs, all of these types of accounts are really the same here, except that we specialize in those private assets. So many of our clients are investing in real estate, for example. We see everything from just a residential property all the way to commercial deals or multifamily deals. We see more passive investments. We see all sorts of things, note investing, maybe passive investments into oil and gas or multifamily syndications, private company investments of all, varying degrees. And most recently, we've even delved into cryptocurrency, which was something that our clients had been asking us to offer as a resource to them for quite some time. So really, the point that we're trying to get across is that self-directed IRA is just a marketing term, but the big differentiator in being with Quest versus your traditional style financial company is that you're going to have the broadest possible spectrum of investments in the private sector. Now, how exactly can younger generations benefit from self-directed IRAs? Like I said at the very beginning, I can't tell you how many times we'll hear someone say, man, I wish I had, heard about this when I was a little bit on the younger side. I'm just finding out that these investment strategies in, alternative investing are even available. And I'm, in my 40s or my 50s or even beyond that. And I think one of the great things that we're seeing trends right now in finance is we're seeing more and more young people acting and moving towards having an interest in investing. And the stats, they don't lie. About 31% of millennials started investing, believe it or not, before the age of 21, compared to about 23% of generations that came before them. And I think that there's a variety of reasons for that. I think one of the big ones is that just the accessibility of information today, it's just so much more readily available from, going on YouTube and watching videos to going on different social media platforms or forums or things of that nature. The information is just more readily available. But also some of the challenges I think that these generations are going through, from crippling debt, that's requiring them really to go out there, find investment strategies, and deploy the funds that they do have, to be able to offset some of those challenges, debt, inflation, and things of that nature. One of the important things for the younger generation, too, is to, of course, contribute early. Now, this is a great class, I think, for individuals that are perhaps a little bit younger. If you've never set up a retirement account before, then this is a great class for you. But I also love to see when our clients will give this type of information and pass it on, to their kids or to their grandkids, and educate them on the importance of setting up a retirement account early. I think it's easy to get into kind of the mindset, if you're in your 20s or in your 30s, that retirement could be 30, 40 years away. I've got everyday expenses today that are kind of taking priority. But it's so important to start early. And at the end, I'll actually show a slide that talks about compounding interest and gives real figures of what it looks like starting in your 20s versus starting in your 30s. And compounding interest is important already. But when we talk about being able to do it in the context of a Roth IRA, where your earnings are now growing tax-free, that can really be a game changer. We recently saw Peter Thiel in the news a lot. You might have heard of him. He was the co-founder of PayPal. And he was really getting a lot of kind of negative media attention, because he turned $1,700 into $5 billion with a B, dollars, completely tax-free. Because when PayPal was just getting started, he did an investment of $1,700 in his self-directed Roth IRA. He invested in PayPal in the early 90s. And of course, in the early 2000s, we kind of had like a tech boom that happened. PayPal was purchased by eBay. He then took the funds that he got from the sale of PayPal, and believe it or not, he invested that into what was the early company, Facebook. And so, of course, Facebook is now a huge international company, billions and billions of dollars. So he was able to turn a very small amount, $1,700, into $5 billion. And what's unique about the story is that because he did this investment inside of a self-directed Roth IRA, that $5 billion could be completely tax-free to him when he withdraws those funds. And so I love to tell that story, not because, we're saying, hey, we're going to teach you how to turn $1,700 into $5 billion. I wish I could. I wish I could do that myself, right? I think that's kind of like the dream that anyone would want. But I think that it just goes to show you that even taking a very small amount and just simply investing it over the course of a lifetime, by the time you get to that point, you could have a very significant amount in your Roth IRA, again, that can be withdrawn tax-free. So compounding and doing these investments over and over again over the course of your life can really have a dramatic difference on what your retirement would look like when you get to that point. Tax benefits. We hear a lot about inflation right now. How is inflation affecting your retirement? It's kind of affecting it twofold. Right now with inflation, everyday expenses are significantly higher. You fill up your car with gas, or I know recently I went on a work trip to a conference that was in North Carolina. And, here at Quest, we travel pretty frequently. We're going out to conferences and, educating Americans on what they can do with these types of accounts. So we're kind of road warriors and we're out there. And so we often fly Southwest, pretty tried and true airline, not too many problems. But, the cost of travel has significantly increased. So, we flew a different airline. We're seeing that the cost of food at the grocery store, or if you go out to dinner with your family, everything is costing a significant amount more these days. You might have to look for deals and whatnot when you're purchasing everyday things. And I bring this up because it directly correlates to your retirement, because if you're spending more money on the everyday things, then at the end of the day, is that diminishing the amount that you are contributing for your retirement? And taking that even a step further, it's affecting you, because if you're saving, still, let's say you're still saving, a good amount and taking advantage of compounding interest, as inflation continues, your money may not take you as far in the future. And so this correlates back to self-directed IRAs, because, oftentimes we'll see individuals that will kind of dip their toe in, they'll do a self-directed investment, and really it'll snowball from there. They may do one and really get a feel for it and see how advantageous it can be. Oftentimes you can really have exponential growth in these types of accounts. And especially right now, where we're seeing so much of a dip in the stock market, so much kind of unknown in what's going to occur, being able to have the benefit of knowing, that your self-directed investments, you've got them diversified, and that you're still earning more of a steady, kind of tried and true income from them, can really make a big difference. And of course, when you're doing these deals, rather than doing them yourself personally with your own savings account or just the money that, you have, when you're doing them in these types of retirement accounts, of course, you're getting all of the tax benefits. You're doing a real estate deal. If you might pay capital gains outside of your retirement account, well, you're not going to pay that when you're investing in your IRA, right? As you make your investment returns, those are going back to the account tax free. So really powerful stuff. And I think, of course, the younger generation can benefit from self-direction, but these tax benefits span across all generations, really. I think it's so important to diversify your portfolio. As I said, in the current times where the stock market is kind of taking a dip right now, we often hear individuals that will come to us and say that they're losing a significant amount. And having self-directed investments really allows you to diversify and have a little bit of the ability to kind of hedge your bets. I'll, joke with my husband sometimes, and we'll text each other, and, I'll be like, well, do you want to ruin your day? Go log into the Fidelity account and look at what our investments are doing in the account right now. The funds that we've got invested, of course, they've taken a little bit of a dip, stock market investments and mutual funds and things of that nature. But what's funny is that when we log into our self-directed IRAs and we look at our private investments that we have in those types of accounts, we receive like quarterly dividends from some of the deals that we do, or even monthly payments. And month over month or quarter over quarter, we are receiving funds back, right? We are making profits and growing our accounts. And so by having our foot in both sides, when one is down and the other is going well, we're able to still have a good return. And of course, the social impact as well. We're all capitalists. We all want to make money as quickly as we possibly can. But of course, having the ability to make money and feel good about how you're doing it, that's something I can really get behind. So, investing in real estate, for example, if you invest in kind of the eyesore property, you may be able to fix that up and, improve your community, put a local family in there, right? You're seeing the actual benefit of what your money is doing for you, rather than just investing in major corporations. We're really big believers in diversifying. We ourselves have investments in your typical publicly traded deals, but we love to also invest in private assets where we can really kind of see what our money is doing for us as well. Now, these are just some common things that we see our clients invest into, from real estate to private companies to note investments. But truthfully, there's so many more things that can be done. And there's 7 different types of accounts, from your more typical personal plans, like traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs, to employer plans, which are really great if you're self-employed, to kind of the more specialty plans, health savings accounts, and Coverdell education savings accounts. We offer free consultations here at Quest with our certified IRA specialists. So if you're wondering what account might be the most beneficial for you, I highly encourage you to set up a consultation with us, myself included. I'm happy to meet with some of you. One of the great things is that it's really a no strings attached kind of consultation. We'll walk you through exactly, what accounts that we offer, and talk to you about the accounts that perhaps you already have. If you have an old 401k, or you have a retirement account somewhere else, maybe not happy with the investments, or just looking to kind of further diversify into something alternative, a great option is doing one of these consultations. We'll kind of walk you through exactly what your options are, how it would work, what the tax benefits or implications of certain investments might look like in these types of vehicles. And in fact, it's a free service for when you are ready to move over to Quest. It's a completely free service that will help you out. We know it can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. Sometimes those custodians will drag their heels a little bit in moving over those accounts. But we'll actually do all the legwork, and we'll take care of transferring your funds over when you are ready to do so. There's no minimums for any of these accounts. So if you are an established investor, you've got a sizable account to move over, you can really pick and choose how much you want to move. But also on the flip side, if you're a brand new investor, maybe this is your first retirement account, never set up an account of this sort before, there are no minimums. So you can start the account, get educated on how to use this, and start making deposits when you're ready. Now, already really kind of previewed this, but what is the Great Wealth Transfer? Really, it talks about this kind of unprecedented shift that we're seeing of capital. The baby boomer generation, of course, is one of the largest generations, and they're all retiring at this stage. Many have already, but we're seeing kind of the tail end that a lot of baby boomers are retiring. And so what's occurring is that we're seeing a wealth shift in the workforce of income that these individuals were perhaps making that may be shifted now to younger generations. And it's important that we be talking about, what these younger generations can be doing to save for the future, especially given the fact that a lot of these strategies that perhaps baby boomers have implemented to be able to prepare and save for retirement, generations before us may not necessarily be something that we can rely on. I recently saw some statistics, and it was talking about how a huge portion for baby boomers, of their retirement source could still be Social Security. Then it whittled down, and it was like 401ks and IRAs, savings and investment income. And then there was a small chunk of it that might be coming from, if you were lucky to get like an inheritance, or if you were lucky enough to still have a pension. Pensions are near obsolete. We very seldom see someone that has a plan like that anymore. So we kind of eliminate that. You can't rely on having an inheritance. That if you get one, that's great, but not a good financial strategy to hope that you'll get funds from a family member or something like that. And if you log into like Facebook, or you read up and you see a meme, or you read an article and you hear about what we believe may be occurring with Social Security, you may not want to put a huge amount of stake in having 50%, 60%, like many baby boomers are, coming from Social Security. And so it's so important to be honing in on those other 2 categories. And that's IRAs and 401ks and savings and investment income. Those are the categories that you can really affect a huge amount of change and have a higher source of income. And many of the generations before us were not educated or not utilizing these strategies in self-direction. Believe it or not, you've been able to invest in self-directed IRAs since the 70s. It's been around virtually since the inception of IRAs to begin with. However, for whatever reason, this education is not readily available in the financial community. I think a major reason for that is that large financial companies, not to name names, right? But large financial companies really have a stronghold over how we prepare and save for our retirement. And because they're exclusively dealing with publicly traded investments, they're not talking about these alternative strategies that can be deployed. And these are really things that can be a game changer when you're saving for your retirement. Millennials and Gen Z could potentially hold more economic power than a lot of the generations coming before them because of this wealth transfer that's occurring, and of course their ability to be able to save and invest earlier and have access to this information at an earlier stage. Some of the reasons is, of course, eager to learn. We're Like I said, we kind of already talked about this some, but as technology increases, it's easier to access so many forms of information on these types of topics. Forums are very popular. One of my favorite ones, if you're an investor, if you're not familiar with it, is Bigger Pockets. It's basically a forum where you can go and talk about different IRA strategies or questions that you may have. Very, very active in the community. So it's a great way to be able to learn from others. And of course, just reading up blog posts, YouTube videos, articles. There's a wealth of information out there. And we're really seeing that a lot of the younger generation are pursuing an interest in educating themselves on these topics earlier than what we've seen in the past. Perspective shift. We've seen our parents, grandparents, save for retirement in one manner. A lot of times, these, as we've said, strategies may not necessarily work as effectively today. And of course, there's so many other investments that are available too. One of the ones that we're seeing a lot of our clients, especially in the younger kind of sector, invest into is like cryptocurrency or smaller real estate deals as well, right? Providing better rewards. And lastly is wanting to take back control. Now, one thing to talk a little bit about are inherited IRA accounts. We talked briefly about receiving an inheritance. Should you receive a retirement account from a family member or from another individual, that retirement account would be classified as an inherited IRA for you. And what really occurs is it still can remain in this inherited IRA and allow you to invest it still. So you can continue keeping up with the investments that are in this account and continue growing it. One of the great things that you can do, again, I mentioned, I love it when our clients will pass on, their wealth of knowledge to their children or to their grandchildren. But one thing that you can do as you're looking at your estate planning and looking at your will and whatnot, getting your affairs in order for one day being able to leave them, is considering converting into a Roth IRA. The reason being is that Roth IRAs are completely tax-free, as we talked about. And so by converting your funds into a Roth IRA, what it would do is leave the next generation, leave your heirs with a tax-free account for them to continue taking draws on. Of course, you can't really rely on an inheritance. So of course, just setting up a Roth IRA is another great idea, whether or not you're receiving one as an inherited account. Now, power of compounding. I mentioned that we would show a example of how exactly a compounding situation would look like, versus if you were 25 years old versus 35 years old. So if you were saving about $2,000 annually, which by the way, the contribution maximum is $6,000, so it's significantly higher. So you could be saving a lot more than that. But if you were saving about $2,000 annually starting at 25 and got about an 8% return, by the time you reach retirement, you would have 372,000. If this was done in a Roth IRA, that would be completely tax-free. Compared to what you look at with the same, returns, same dollar amount, just starting 10 years later, you're about, half. But when you look at saving a higher amount, and again, the max contribution is $6,000 that you can personally deposit each year. This is on top of any funds that you may already have. If you've got an old 401k or you've got an existing IRA, you can move over unlimited amounts of those funds to Quest. We're just talking about making your personal deposits on an annual basis. But if you contribute $5,000 starting at the age of 25, keeping with the 8%, versus starting at the age of 35, right? It's a huge, huge difference. So you can really see the power of having these types of accounts, especially when you're saving for retirement. If you're starting early, having a Roth IRA can really make a very significant difference to what your retirement will look like. Now, in closing, why would someone want a Roth IRA? Prior year contributions can be funded until the tax filing deadline. What this means is that if you want to set up an account, you can do that and make a contribution from January until the following April. So you still have time to make your 2022 contribution. If you have a non-working spouse that qualifies for a Roth IRA, as long as you're married and you're filing joint, even if you personally have no earnings for that year, you can still make a contribution, believe it or not, to the account. Qualified distributions are tax-free forever, and there's no required distributions. With most retirement accounts that are out there, there are required distributions. However, with Roth IRAs, you are never forced to take money out of the account. So it can continue to grow in there effectively forever, indefinitely. And of course, you can also create tax-free income for your heirs. As I mentioned, we would love to do a consultation with you, whether or not you have an existing account elsewhere. It's a great idea to do a consultation and figure out how exactly you can get more involved in self-direction, learn about different strategies. One of the great things about Quest is that all of our education is completely free, whether or not you're a client. That goes for just accessing information that might be on our website or on our YouTube or social media pages, all the way to doing an actual consultation and kind of picking our brains about what opportunities are available for you. So definitely reach out to us if that is something that you're interested in. Now, talking a little bit about a promotion that we have today for you, Nicole, we have a promotion going on right now. It's called our Leap 2022. Do you want to give a little bit of background on why we're doing this promotion, especially for this class right now?
Yes, actually. So, hi guys. I hope you really liked the webinar so far. You're coming to an end, but there's a lot of really cool information out there. So the idea behind this particular promotion with this particular class is, I'm sure it's not like a secret, but the Great Resignation is probably one of the biggest movements in the last couple of years, especially with young people. And because of this Great Resignation, something when it comes to like your 401ks from your old jobs that you've moved on since, Well, now they're actually eligible to be rolled over into an IRA, specifically a self-directed IRA. So we know inflation is kind of crazy right now and things are getting way more expensive. So maybe like saving for your future or your savings account isn't exactly like the number one thing on your to-do list right now. It's being able to pay for today's expenses. So being able to use that 401k to invest into these types of investments completely tax free and possibly yielding a higher return could really kind of offset what you're not saving for the future and spending now with the 401k to an IRA, right? So we wanted to offer something to you guys if you open an account this week only. So it's only something that we're offering this week with Leap 22. If you open an account, I'm going to put the open an account page right here, and IRA specialists will contact you. But if you submit a transfer from an IRA that you might already have, or you want to roll over your 401k, and you put this promo code on there, we'll just waive your account opening fee completely. If you submit it at the same time. So or even a couple days after too, depending on who you talk to and things like that, right? So one of the sales specialists, right? So make sure that you're opening your account. You have a 401k. Don't let it sit there. Don't let it just yield what it's yielding right now. Take this knowledge that you're learning from these types of webinars and go forth and make tax-free funds that way, right? So make sure you click the link and to open an account today or speak to an IRA specialist, and we can definitely help you with that, walking through what works for you and anything like that. So that's the idea behind it. The Great Resignation is still going on. It's a big thing, and I think this would be really helpful for people who want to try something different other than the stock market.
Yeah, recently my husband actually left his role and went to a different company, as a lot of people have done in the last year to 2 years. And what happens to your 401k when you would leave that company is that it basically comes into a window of time where you are able to do more with it than you might have otherwise, meaning you're able to actually take those funds and really have more control over them. While you're working at the company, you're usually fairly limited, that you're most likely not able to move the 401k into an account like this. If you fall into that category, let's talk about that in a consultation. But if you do leave your company, or you already have, your 401k comes into a window where you have access to be able to roll it over to your new company 401k, or you can move it into something like a self-directed IRA, typically with no tax implications, and then start self-directing it into these alternative investments. And so this is a really good time to take advantage of this promotion. There's typically $100 account opening fee. That's the only fee to get set up with us here at Quest, gets your account set up. That's what we're waiving right now. There'll be no $100 account opening fee, and it's a free service that we will help you to get your existing account moved over. If you've got an IRA somewhere else and you're thinking, hey, I want to get involved in investing in real estate or cryptocurrency, or I want to invest in some other private asset, this is the opportunity to really take advantage of this promotion and get everything taken care of. So hope to see you guys in the consultations using the link that Nicole provided. This is really just a very, very entry level class that we did today. This is kind of just the tip of the iceberg, one of our more foundational types of classes. So I encourage you guys to come back. We've got so many different opportunities for education. You want to tell them a little bit about some of these ones, Nicole?
Yeah, so we have a pretty consistent schedule, guys. One thing about Quest is we believe that everybody should have access to these kinds of resources, not just the people who, have a bunch of money to invest, but everybody should be able to have this type of education. So we put on, weekly events, webinars online every Tuesday. And then our big one is our self-directed IRA Saturdays, where we keep our really expert speakers. We always make sure that we have wonderful speakers, but our like top notch people are 100% on our SDIRA Saturdays. So we encourage you guys to RSVP for those types of events, because they're usually really interesting webinars. Actually, Anne-Marie, I think you're doing the one this Saturday, aren't you, with like women's in real estate?
Yeah. So the topic on Saturday is kind of, financial strategies really catered specifically to female investors.
All right. So we also hold our virtual networking happy hours, which we've rebranded as national networking happy hours. So if you, when you're networking, you might just be typically limited to the people in your local area, but with these type of, networking happy hours, you can actually network with people across the country. And we've even gotten people internationally as well. Some have tuned in from things like Australia and Hawaii, I think. So we get a lot of really cool people interested on here. And hey, too, you're at this webinar, which is pre-recorded. If you're on YouTube, click that subscribe button. We have these, not only our webinars weekly, but we also put on a lot of other short educational, interviews or new IRA topics or anything like that directly on our YouTube channel. So hit the subscribe button. But yeah, no, we have a lot of really cool events going on right now. And I think we have an even bigger one coming up in September. Do we have a slide for that, Anne-Marie?
Yep, we sure do. We'll talk about our big upcoming expo, and then we will take some questions at the end. I see a few coming in, so feel free to type more in the comment section, and we will address those right at the end. But yes, we do have a very special event coming up very soon, the Quest Expo. This will be our third annual event. Last time we did it, we had over 750 attendees. So we are expecting even more this year. It's going to be a packed house. And we're very excited to have our keynote speaker this year be Emmitt Smith. He is a Hall of Famer. He is a Super Bowl champion. He's even been on Dancing with the Stars. But most applicable to us now is he is an entrepreneur and an investor that's been very, very successful. And so he'll be sharing his background on how he became really a very successful entrepreneur after having a great career in football. This event is on September 23rd to the 25th. It's in Houston. If you're interested in attending, go to questexpo.com for more information. We have tickets still available, but we do have only a limited number of spots left. What's great about this event is that we do it one time a year. It's the biggest and best event that we do every single year. And we really do get a very large national presence, especially bringing in such a cool speaker like Emmitt Smith. So if you're thinking of coming, definitely go ahead and secure your spot. We do, all types of education. Being a self-directed IRA custodian, we, are kind of special in that, the conference isn't just focused in one area. Like recently, I was in Florida at a note conference, or I was in North Carolina at a multifamily conference. Usually they kind of have a specific focus. But for us, we're self-directed IRA custodians. We see thousands of investments every single month, but they're in almost anything that you could imagine. And so the cool thing about this event is that we talk about almost any investment that you could possibly think of there. We'll be talking about note investing, real estate investing, multifamily, oil and gas. We'll be talking about cryptocurrency. We'll be talking about Airbnb investing. We'll talk about the state of the economy, inflation, what we're projecting for 2023, just to name a few of the many, many topics that we're going to be talking about. Get your tickets while they're still available. I hope to see you there. And without further ado, this is our contact information. You guys already have the link to schedule your consultation, but you can also email us directly at iraspecialists@questtrust.com. If you want a copy of the slides from today, go ahead and send us an email. You can call us at 855-FUN-IRAs, or you can also chat with us live. It's not like a robot. It's a real live person talking on our chat feature on our website. So that's another way to get good information pretty quickly as well.
All right. So it looks like we, guys, if you have questions about the presentation itself, about IRAs in general, the expo event, anything and everything, go ahead and put it in the chat. I do see one here. I'm not sure if this would be something that we could answer, Anne Marie, given the fact that we can't give tax, legal, or investment advice, but this one is, how is Quest dealing with the challenge of the significantly reduced values of crypto assets for members, and how are members dealing with balancing their portfolios? For me personally, like an investment with a self-directed IRA is something that you do your own due diligence on, and you can do yourself. And so the exchange that we use is a RISC. So if that's something that you're investing in, that's something that you're doing your due diligence on, and there's always risk with any type of investments, and we're aware of the reduced values of crypto assets. But this is why we encourage everybody to diversify your portfolios, not just investing completely into cryptocurrency, but also investing into other types of tangible investments like real estate, or even lending your money out with a secured note, or anything along those lines. But that's my 2 cents on that, is just making sure you're diversifying your portfolio, not putting all your eggs in one basket. But do you have anything to add to that, Emery?
Yeah, at the end of the day, Nicole's exactly right. Diversifying is going to kind of protect you as best you can. When one investment's down, whether that's the stock market or crypto or real estate at the time, you can have that protection as much as possible, and try to mitigate your risk. Definitely, we're seeing crypto is lower than what we thought maybe it would be. However, it kind of just depends on what your school of thought is. I have a close friend that works at one of the largest exchanges in the country. And, he personally really feels that, crypto is going to turn back around. Some people say they would never touch it with a 10-foot pole. So it kind of just depends on your risk tolerance. Nicole is correct, though. Ultimately, in a self-directed account, that's kind of the beauty of the account, but also the risk factor as well, is that you are choosing your own investments. And so that's why we love to put on these classes and do education on these topics, is so that you can educate yourself and really be able to make those types of financial decisions on your own behalf, kind of dependent on what you think. I see there's a question from Doreen. I'm a little bit closer to retirement age. Is there a more targeted plan for me? Let's sit down and do a consultation, because it really depends. The other day I was at a conference and was talking to an individual, and they were saying they've got a very large 401k. They heard about Roth IRAs and they get to make tax-free money off of it. But is it really going to be beneficial for them to convert their huge 401k that they've had their whole time working in corporate America, pay the taxes, and put that in a Roth IRA? Or is it better for them to stay in a traditional? And so we were able to talk that through and kind of talk strategy that she was able to then, discuss further with her CPA and, figure out what financially made sense for her. So let's definitely talk. But any of the plans that we mentioned could be applicable to you. Most especially, I would say the traditional Roth IRA, but maybe also health savings account as well. That lets you contribute dollars that you can invest in these types of investments and immediately withdraw for health expenses. What a good thing to set yourself up as you continue to age is saving for health expenses. The number one reason why Americans go bankrupt today, previously it was all sorts of things, from credit card debt to other types of debts. Today, the number one reason is because of health expenses. Health expenses are continuing to increase in cost. And unfortunately, people are not saving at the rate that they need to. And oftentimes these emergency health situations present themselves unexpectedly, and people may not be financially prepared for them. So being able to save for that, rainy day fund in a tax-free vehicle, again, is something you definitely need to add into your tool belt. Just a comment from Jack, as a 22-year-old who has had a Roth IRA since 19, I really appreciate you talking about Gen Z and young people. I think a lot of people overlook how many young people are growing capital. Thanks so much for saying this. We completely agree. Our clients that we have already, a lot of them are not millennials. And so we really see a need for educating this demographic more on this type of topic. So thanks for tuning in. What is the code to waive the fees again? It is LEAP22. It's LEAP22. So you guys can go ahead and take advantage and set up your account. And I think the last question that we have right now is, how do you find a 401k account from a job that you may have left 10 plus years ago? Let's definitely talk. We have a couple resources that we might be able to share with you for how you can potentially find old 401ks. Let's talk about that individually. You can email me directly at it's Anne-Marie at questtrust.com. It's ANNE Marie, MARIE at questtrust.com. I think Nicole's putting it up on the screen. There it is. Perfect. Email me. Let's talk about that. We'll help you and get you taken care of so you can track that down and start self-directing. But I think that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a class almost every single day of the week, we like to joke. So we hope to see you at another one. This one was specifically about IRA content. That being said, we oftentimes have content that is on the actual investments themselves, real estate based or note based or, crypto based or something like that. So we do a smattering. We talk about IRA content, and then we also talk about investments as much, if not more, so that you guys have an understanding of the many, many possibilities inside of these types of accounts. So very excited to talk to you guys. And thank you so much to our lovely moderator, Nicole, who was on with me today. And we will see you guys at the next class. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. See y'all later.